Everyone at work praised me, said I held the team together. Then one day, I opened the wrong tab and saw what they really thought of me. I wish I hadn't. Folks would pat me on the back in the break room like I was their emotional support coworker. "Steve's got it," they'd say. "Steve never drops the ball." I became the unofficial office therapist, IT guy, planner, morale booster. The guy who always stayed 5 minutes later than everyone else, and somehow never seemed to mind. Truth was, I did mind. I minded all the time. But I got real good at pushing those feelings down and calling it being a team player. I had worked at Edgemont Tech Solutions for almost 7 years. That is a long time to smile through gritted teeth. But I did it. I smiled, nodded, carried the load no one wanted. I made the coffee when the machine broke. I bought a birthday cake when no one else remembered Kristen in accounting turned 40. Hell, I even stayed late to help reroute the VPN one night because Troy and IT had a hot date and bailed. No one really knew me. Not the real me. But they liked what they saw. Or at least, that is what I thought. Then came the day that knocked the wind clean out of me. It was a Thursday, middle of the quarter, nothing unusual. I was helping Rachel, one of the newer hires, troubleshoot a sync issue between her laptop and the internal messaging system. Simple fix. She handed me her device, stepped away to take a call. The window was open already. Their group chat. It was not labeled anything clever, just team banter. I almost closed it. I should have, but my name caught my eye. They were talking about me. In real time. A little thread of comments, flying one after another. I will never forget the first one I saw. "Steve's such a people pleaser. Always smiling like a damn golden retriever." It felt like someone hit me in the gut. I kept reading. Could not stop myself. Another message popped up. "Bet he's dying inside from all that fake nice." Then another. "He's only reliable because he has no life. Dude probably eats microwave dinners alone every night." Someone laughed. Actually typed LOL after that one. I stood there holding Rachel's laptop like it was burning a hole through my palms. My heart was hammering in my chest. My ears started ringing. The more I scrolled, the worse it got. And then I saw the message that broke me. Client report was mostly Steve's work, but I took lead. No way I'm letting him outshine me again. I just froze. They were not laughing with me. They were not admiring me. They were mocking me, using me, taking credit for what I built while treating me like some office mascot. I put the laptop down gently, like it might shatter. My hands were shaking. I walked back to my desk and sat there, staring at the screen, the noise of the office fading into static. And that was when everything started to unravel. The rest of that day felt like walking through a haunted house, except the ghosts were alive and smiling at me. I looked around the office, and everything felt off. Too cheerful, too fake. Rachel came back, thanked me for the fix, and went right back to typing. I wondered if she had written any of those messages. She was new, but the chat had been moving fast, and her name had popped up once or twice. I started watching people differently after that. When Mark from sales threw me a thumbs up from across the floor, I wondered if he had typed the part about my no-life microwave meals. He was always the first to call me Stevie, always with a wink, like we were buddies. Maybe that was his way of keeping me soft. Harmless. I remembered a meeting from last month. We had stayed late, just the two of us, hammering out a pitch deck for a new client. Mark had asked me to finalize the slides because he was fried, and I had agreed without a second thought. The next day, he walked into the team meeting and pitched the whole thing like he had done it solo. The boss even clapped, said it was his best work yet. I had nodded, smiled, said nothing. Back then, I had brushed it off. I told myself it was no big deal, that the team winning was more important than credit. But now, that memory had teeth. Another flashback hit me out of nowhere. A birthday party we threw for Casey in HR. I had picked up the cake, put together the group card, even called the bakery 3 times because the name had been spelled wrong on the first try. Casey gave me a polite thank you that day. Later that week, I overheard her telling someone she thought I was trying too hard to be liked. I had laughed along at the time. Now I was not so sure she had been joking. Little things started clicking into place. The way people stopped talking when I walked by. How certain conversations in the kitchen got real quiet when I entered. The private Slack channels I was not invited to. All of it had felt like background noise before. Harmless coincidences. But now it was glaring. It felt like I was waking up from a long nap, realizing I had been dreaming about friends that never existed. At lunch, I sat alone in the break room and kept my head down. Every chuckle outside that door felt like it might be about me. My sandwich tasted like cardboard. I chewed and chewed, but it would not go down. When I got back to my desk, I opened a fresh document and stared at it. Blank screen, blinking cursor, my name at the top. It hit me like a wave. I had given everything to this place. Time, energy, late nights, early mornings. And what did I get back? Fake smiles, stolen credit, and a damn group chat that read like a roast session with me as the punchline. I looked around the office again. This place, these people, they had felt like a kind of home. Now they just felt like shadows. But one thing was certain. I was done being the punchline. That night, I did not go straight home. I sat in my car for over an hour, engine off, phone untouched, just staring at the steering wheel like it might have the answers. The windows fogged up from my breath. My hand sat limp in my lap. I kept hearing their words in my head. Looping, stabbing, echoing. Golden retriever. Pushover. No life. I was not sure what hurt more, the fact they said it, or the fact that part of me believed them. I had let this job shape my identity. Every time someone asked me who I was, the answer came out like a resume. I work at Edgemont. Like that was enough. Like that made me enough. I used to have things that made me feel alive. I played guitar. I hiked. I used to sketch stuff when I could not sleep, cities, birds, even one weird dragon I never finished. Somewhere along the way, all of that got boxed up, pushed aside for another late shift, another team win, another task I did not mind doing. Not really. Except I did. Deep down, I always did. By the time I got home, it was past 9. My apartment was dark, quiet. The same takeout container sat in the fridge from 2 days ago. I dropped my bag, walked to the mirror in the hallway, and really looked at myself. I looked tired. Not just end-of-the-day tired. I looked like someone who had been holding their breath for years. And that night, for the first time in a long time, I exhaled. I opened my laptop, not for emails, not for spreadsheets, just for me. I went back to the chat thread. It was still open on Rachel's profile. I scrolled through everything again, slower this time. Word by word, name by name. They had their little circle. The people who played nice in public and stabbed in private. Mark, Casey, Rachel, even Monica from finance. She had written, "Let Steve take the fall if the numbers look off. He always apologizes anyway." That one got me bad. I had helped Monica redo an entire expense report last quarter. Missed lunch. Missed a call with my mom. And that was what she wrote. But then something strange happened. I stopped feeling hurt. The pain was still there, sure. But underneath it, something started brewing. Not anger, exactly. Not revenge. Just a calm, focused fire. Like my brain had finally switched out of please like me mode and into something sharper. They had told me who they were. Now it was my turn to show them who I was. I clicked open a new file. This one was not blank for long. I started listing everything I had contributed in the last year. Every project. Every document I drafted. Every process I improved. Every system I helped build. I pulled emails, logs, timestamps, even client feedback. The truth was all there. It had just been buried under fake praise and empty thanks. Then I made another list. People who took credit. People who played nice to my face and spat behind my back. It was a long list. And as I typed, I knew one thing for sure. Something was going to change. The next morning, I walked into the office like nothing had happened. Same button-up shirt. Same worn laptop bag. Same neutral smile. But inside, everything had shifted. I had a plan now, not the kind that made a scene, not the kind that let them know I was hurt. That would have been too easy for them. Too satisfying. No, I wanted something quieter. Smarter. I wanted to know who they really were when they thought I still trusted them. So I gave them exactly what they expected. That Friday morning, I brought donuts. A dozen from that overpriced place down the street. The one with weird flavors like lavender honey and bourbon maple. I dropped them off in the break room with a sticky note that read, "Happy Friday, team. Steve." People ate them without blinking. Same old pattern. A few head nods, a couple forced thank yous, but mostly, they acted like it was routine. Like kindness was something I was required to give. I watched their reactions closely. Monica took 2. Mark walked by my desk, holding a half-bitten cruller, and said, "You always know how to boost morale, man." Then he asked if I could look over the updated pitch deck one more time before the meeting, just in case. I said yes. That was the test. I wanted to see what he would do. If he had changed at all. If even a hint of guilt had sunk in after all the things he had said in that chat. Spoiler, Nothing had changed. I stayed late that night and made the deck airtight. Sent it to him before midnight. Next morning, in the team huddle, he rolled up with his usual charm, walking the room through the deck like he had personally handcrafted every slide. I watched him hit every talking point I had written. I watched the boss nod in approval. And I watched Mark wink at me across the table when it was done. Not a thank you, just a wink. That was all I needed. The next phase of my plan began that night. I called it the mirror folder. Every file I worked on from that point forward had a duplicate, one in the company system, and one in my private drive, clean, time-stamped, and watermarked with metadata that traced every line back to me. I logged everything. Meetings, messages, edits, emails. If they wanted to keep playing behind my back, fine. But I was building something stronger than trust. I was building proof. It was not about revenge. It was about clarity. I was not going to let them spin the story anymore. This time, when I walked out of here, I would be the one holding the pen. And none of them saw it coming. A week passed. Then two. I kept my mask on the whole time. Still brought snacks on Wednesdays. Still helped debug that clunky spreadsheet for marketing. Still laughed at the dry jokes Troy made during team calls. But behind the scenes, I was watching, listening, collecting. And then, one afternoon, something happened I did not see coming. I was reviewing timesheets in the shared drive when I noticed a permissions glitch. Nothing huge, but I flagged it out of habit. IT asked me to take a quick look while they sorted it out. So I did. The glitch let me see some cross-department logs. Nothing sensitive, just user access info. But right there, buried deep in a string of usernames and document histories, I saw it. My manager's name. Dana. At first, I thought it was a mistake. She was not part of that group chat. She had never shown up in the messages I saw on Rachel's laptop. I double-checked. Her username was listed as having access to the chat. Not recently. Not often. But she had been in there. She had read it. Multiple times. And she had said nothing. Not once. Dana was the one person I had actually believed might see me. She was sharp, organized, no nonsense, but fair. Whenever team issues came up, she was the one who reminded everyone to give credit where it was due. I had trusted her. And yet, there she was, quietly lurking. That hit different. I sat back in my chair, the ceiling tiles above me suddenly spinning. I thought about all the times she had nodded during meetings when Mark took credit. All the times she had copied me on emails and said, "Thanks for the support, Steve," never once calling out that the work had started with me. She had known, all along, and done nothing. That was when the plan changed. It was not about proving anything to the team anymore. It was not even about getting credit back from people like Mark or Rachel. They were just noise. But Dana? She was the decision maker, the one with real power. And she had stood by while they turned me into a ghost. So now, I had a new question. What happens when the reliable one becomes the one they have to rely on? Because I knew things. Things only I had access to. Things I had built. Things I had fixed without ever being asked. And now, I was going to disappear so quietly they would not even hear the gears stop turning. But not yet. Not before I showed them what being truly invisible looked like. I started pulling back. Not all at once. That would have raised flags. No, I did it like a ghost easing out of a room, one quiet step at a time. First, I stopped volunteering for things. The little extras, the "can you take a quick look?" favors. When someone asked for help, I gave them what they needed, bare minimum, nothing more. I stopped staying late. Stopped jumping in to fix things before they broke. At first, no one noticed. Because people like me, we are not noticed until we are missing. Then came the small cracks. Rachel sent out a report 2 days late because she thought I would clean it up like always. She even laughed about it when the client pointed out the formatting errors. Said, "Steve probably saw it and fixed it." Only I had not. That laugh. It died in her throat pretty quick. Troy botched a merge doc because I was not there to recheck the version history. Monica tried to run an audit using the wrong formula I had warned her about weeks ago. It was almost comical, watching them squirm and flounder, looking for the invisible safety net they had gotten used to. And Dana? She noticed. I could feel it in the way she started lingering longer at my desk, asking those vague, leading questions like, "Everything okay, Steve?" Or, "You seem quieter lately." I smiled and said I was just trying to prioritize better. She nodded like she believed me, but her eyes were searching, like maybe she was starting to realize something had shifted. I watched her more carefully after that. Every email she forwarded, every comment she made in team meetings. And then she slipped. We were on a group call with a client I had been handling for months. I had written the original onboarding documents, built the timeline, created the metrics they were using. Everyone knew that. I was the primary contact. But when the client asked about an update, Dana smiled and said, "Mark's been managing that closely." Mark. I stared at the screen, waiting for her to correct herself. She never did. And Mark? He leaned in like he had been handed a crown, talking confidently about our rollout strategy, as if the entire thing had not come from my notebook 6 weeks ago. That was the moment. Right there. I knew what I had to do. I had built too much here. I had tied too much of myself to a place that never truly saw me. But I had one last move to make. A quiet one. A clean one. I logged into my private folder that night. The one with every document. Every version. Every note with my name attached to the metadata. I compressed it into one neat archive. Then I wrote the letter. And when I pressed save, my hands were not shaking anymore. Monday morning, I walked into the office 5 minutes early, same as always. No fanfare. No change in tone. I even brought coffee for the front desk guy, Rob, just like I had done every first Monday of the month since forever. But this time, I had a USB drive in my pocket. It felt heavier than it should have. I sat at my desk like it was just another week. People filtered in with that tired Monday energy. Someone made a joke about needing caffeine to survive the stand-up. I chuckled along. No one knew. Not yet. At 10:45 sharp, I sent the email. It was short. Simple. Subject: Transition Packet, Client Portfolio and Internal Systems. To Dana, CC, Upper Management, Legal. Attachments: my full documentation, indexed and labeled, with an intro note explaining each system, client, and contact I had managed over the last 2 years. No drama. No accusations. Just the facts. Just the truth. I kept the final paragraph clean, like a surgical incision. Given the current direction of the team and recent delegation shifts, I believe it is time to step away. I will be resigning effective immediately. All files, assets, and active deliverables have been documented and archived for seamless transition. Thank you for the opportunity. Steve. The second I hit send, I stood up. No farewell speech. No going desk to desk. Just slipped on my jacket, nodded once at Rob on the way out, and walked through the glass doors like it was any other day. By the time the email reached their inboxes, I was already gone. But I was not done yet. I walked 2 blocks down, ducked into a quiet cafe, ordered a black coffee, and opened my backup email account. I had created it weeks ago, just in case. Inside was a drafted message. To the head of a major client I had built from the ground up. Someone I had worked closely with. Someone who trusted me, not just the company name. The message was polite. Professional. Hi Meredith. Just a quick note to let you know I am no longer with Edgemont as of today. If you have questions about our previous work, feel free to reach out directly. I have moved on to independent consulting and am taking a limited number of projects. Hope we cross paths again. Warmly, Steve. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I hit send. 3 hours later, she replied. I was hoping this would happen eventually. Let us talk. That was the first domino. I did not post anything on LinkedIn. I did not call anyone out. I just let the silence speak. And trust me, silence has weight. The fallout came fast. By Tuesday morning, my inbox, now separate, private, mine, had 3 messages from Dana. 2 were polite. 1 was urgent. I did not reply. The 4th came from HR. A standard exit form and a note saying they hoped I would reconsider once things settled. But things were already settling for me. See, what none of them realized was how much of that place had quietly started depending on me. Not in the dramatic, fire the guy in the sky falls way. No, more subtle than that. I had become the invisible thread holding all their chaos together. And now, they were unraveling. I heard from someone, off the record, that the Mark presentation flopped the moment they tried to update it without my notes. I heard Monica's audit got flagged because of a miscalculation I usually fixed on the back end. And Rachel? She apparently panicked in front of a client when asked a basic question she had always thrown my way. But here is the twist they never expected. I was not bitter. I did not want to destroy them. I did not want revenge or some grand takedown. What I wanted was peace. And I finally had it. In the quiet that followed, I started building something of my own. Consulting was not the dream I used to chase, but it gave me control. It gave me space. And when that first client signed on, it felt better than any team bonus I had ever earned under their fake smiles. Still, there was one message I had to send. It was not angry. It was not dramatic. It was just clear. Hi, Dana. I appreciate your follow-ups. I hope the transition documents were helpful. I will not be returning. There is no ill will, just clarity. I now understand what I was to the team and what I was not. I wish you the best. Steve. I hit send. No read receipt needed. Just the kind of ending that makes people pause. Because they knew I was always the one who cleaned the messes, smoothed the edges, took the hits. And now, I had walked away without raising my voice, without breaking anything. That kind of exit? It speaks louder than any outburst ever could. I thought they would move on. I really did. Companies replace people all the time, right? Someone quits, they post a job listing, they reshuffle the deck. No one is irreplaceable. That is what they say. But turns out, I had become something more than a role. I had been their safety net, and now they were falling without it. I started hearing whispers. Through LinkedIn messages, a text here and there from folks who were not part of the chat, but who had noticed. One message stuck with me. Came from a guy in compliance who I barely ever talked to. He said, "You always made things smoother." Never said much, but we noticed. That hit me harder than any insult ever did. Because it proved something. I was never invisible. They had just chosen not to see me. 3 weeks after I left, I got a call from Dana. I let it go to voicemail. She sounded tired. Her voice had that edge of forced calm, the kind managers get when the building's on fire, but they still have to host the meeting. She asked if I would consider freelancing temporarily while they transitioned someone new into the role. She said I knew the systems better than anyone. She said the team had been struggling a little. I sat in silence after I listened. Not because I did not know what to say, but because I finally did. That night, I opened a blank email window and typed a single sentence. I was never just a support system. You only realized it once I stopped supporting you. Then I deleted it, because I did not need to send it. They already knew. Sometimes, silence is not revenge. It is release. I never made a public statement. No, I quit, post, no dramatic story dump. I left like I lived there, quiet, unnoticed, until the moment the silence screamed louder than the noise ever did. People kept reaching out, not just from Edgemont, but from other places, people I barely remembered, saying they had heard what happened and wanted to talk. Suddenly, the man they all called the reliable one had become someone else, the one who walked away without looking back. But the truth? I did not walk away in bitterness. I walked toward something. My days now look different. Mornings are slow, intentional. I work when I want, with clients who treat me like a partner, not a ghost in the machine. I no longer reply to emails with forced politeness. I say what I mean. I charge what I am worth. Sometimes I still think about that chat. The words they typed when they thought I would never see. They were meant to tear me down, but weirdly, they built me back up. Stronger, clearer, untouchable. They call me a pushover. Now I push back, with boundaries. They said I had no life. Now I have my own. They thought I would fall apart if they ever stopped clapping. But I never needed their applause. Last week, I walked by the old office building. Just for a minute. Just to see if the lights still flickered in that corner where I used to sit. They did. And for the first time in years, I felt nothing. No anger. No grief. Just calm. Because the best revenge is not a raised voice or a slammed door. It is living well in a world where they no longer have access to you. That was the day I stopped being the reliable one and started being the man who chose himself.